strategies and concepts discussed are for educational purposes only and do not represent specific investment, tax, or estate planning advice. Investing carries an inherent element of risk, and it is in everyone's best interest to consult a tax, legal, or investment professional. Beth Williams is an investment advisor representative of, and advisory services are offered through USA Financial Securities Corp., a registered investment advisor. Megan Carney, Megan S. Carney PLLC, and Financial Arc Builders are not affiliated with USA Financial Securities Corp.
Welcome to Money Healing. I'm your co-host, Beth Williams.
And I'm your other co-host, Megan Carney. We're here to talk about money and our feelings related to it. I'm a psychologist who specializes in helping sensitive people.
And I'm a financial planner. We both talk to everyday people just like you about these topics.
Everyone's mental health and money health journeys are so different. And as unique as we all are, there are some common themes when it comes to how our emotions impact our money and vice versa.
And it's those common themes that we are going to be discussing together, both the themes themselves and some ideas from us about how to move forward and heal your relationship with money. In the next bit of episodes, Megan and I will be unpacking the various emotions and trauma themes that we've encountered within our observations over the last few years.
We discovered that people fell into one of two camps, one that knows their numbers and where they are financially, and those that don't know their numbers and where they are financially. We recommend that you go through the episodes and listen to the ones you believe may apply to you.
Megan and I are big advocates for getting collaborative support for both your mental health and your financial health journey. As you listen, we recommend that you pay attention to yourself, your reactions emotionally, and reach out to either a mental health professional and or a financial professional to help you deal with your relationship with money.
We'll begin by discussing I don't know my numbers and blank. Is there something that comes after that? Emotional themes we'll discuss within that will be fear, avoidance, what happens if I lose or fail, shame, guilt, and even domestic violence and abuse, with the overarching theme of trauma.
We will then discuss I know my numbers and blank. Some of the emotional themes that we'll discuss within that will be hopelessness, fear, shame, embarrassment, burnout, never enough, feeling lost, undervalued, worry, and then we'll also deal with the overarching theme of trauma.
Hello, welcome back to Money Healing. In this episode, we're talking about I have a dream and I'm not going for it. And this goes along those themes of like, I'm getting financial help, but I still have some issues. And oh my gosh, what a big topic.
It's huge, really, because how many of us have something that we are not going for?
I feel like all of us probably have some sort of a dream and we just don't want to admit it to ourselves, or maybe in the busyness of life we've just forgotten. We've talked about this in previous episodes where I will oftentimes talk with young professionals that are just starting to like get their income going, that we need to pause and take a look at our values and figure out what our dream budget is. So like in an ideal world, how much are you spending and how much is enough for you? And I have run this several times with several different people, and it's even with myself, it's really hard to remember what those dreams are. And I just had like last night, I was remembering back, I was like, oh my gosh, this is something that I would love to do every year. And I just completely forgot about it because in the busyness of life, you know. And so I think being able to edit those, even though, yes, hello, that was me. Then, a personal example of being able to say, just reminding yourself back over what those dreams were are, I think, really, really a great period of time. And it's super exciting to be able to say, this is who I am and this is what I want. It's a big question though.
It is a big question. And I think it's also really important to notice like what feelings and thoughts are coming up for you as you do that dream. right? So if you were to, take all of your expenses right now and then just like, let's keep adding to it. What else would I want to do in my current life as is, or maybe in 5 years or in 10 years? Like, what do I want that to look like? And you start adding all that stuff in. What I've noticed, because I've done this exercise, is thoughts and feelings come up. Judgment, these thoughts of like, well, who am I to have that when other people can't even have like a quarter of that? There are a lot of feelings that can come up just in that process that are really important to pay attention to. And whatever ones come up, just go back to the previous episodes. We've probably covered it. If not, leave us a comment so we can make a new episode for you.
Yeah, I think one of the things that comes up often for people is that we have this false sense of like nobility to be poor. And I know we've talked about this in previous episodes as well, where you might be thinking, oh, okay, this is my badge of honor, and we are in a roundabout way kind of told that we need to be that way. There's a lot of religious heads, and we've talked about this before, where Gandhi was poor, and Mother Teresa and Jesus, and so it's just not really fair to use these people, because that might have been in their value system, and it's just not fair to say I can't have this and I shouldn't have this because other people don't, and again, having this false sense of nobility is really a bad thing. That's almost the opposite problem of being rich.
Right?
Being rich and obnoxious about it, like it's totally different. So I have a friend that she and I were talking about this, and she's at this really exciting point in life, and really dear friend, and had these questions around like, who am I, and what do I want in this next phase of life? And I wrote it down, and I was like, oh my gosh, can I quote you? She said, I think the hard part for many of us is knowing that sometimes you have to give up what other people want you to be to become who you want to be. And knowing that pushback will be a challenge. And she was saying that I feel like I'm used to the pushback, but that doesn't mean that I'm ready for it again. And I thought, wow, that's such a great statement about so many things. But it was such a great statement about like, if you are anticipating some pushback, and you are anticipating other people judging you or giving you some pain to your dream budget or whatever, that's a really big problem, I think, that we need to talk about just for a societal issue, and let alone this podcast.
Well, I mean, there's a couple of things there, right? One, it's like, well, not everyone is going to agree with us or like us anyways, right? Like,
Are you sure?
I don't care how much of a people pleaser you are, there's gonna be somebody out there who you cannot please. And so why not just do what we really want for ourselves anyways? Now, that's not to say that like nobody's judgment matters, but we get to decide who are the people whose opinions we actually value. Whose opinions do we want and need to take in, and whose can we say like, you know what, that is their own stuff and it's not a reflection on me, but this set of people over here, they're going to give me really honest feedback, and they know me really well and I know them really well and they trust me. Like, this is Brene Brown talks about this whole idea, right, of like, whose comments are you really going to listen to? Is it going to be other people who are doing the work themselves, or people who are just flinging around opinions?
Yeah, and I think some of that also, so much power in that statement about who do you get to listen to? And I think maybe part of this could be that it's it's hard to admit, and this might be, along the lines of my friend, and I've gone through this before. It's hard to admit that things have changed. I myself have pivoted a couple of different times for my career because I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. And I had worked my previous career, I had worked very hard. I had a really good reputation. I could have gone really far with it. And yet, before going into work, I would sit in the car and just sob. And I was like, this is not what I want. And it was really, really hard. And it was really expensive to be able to stop and say, I can't do this anymore. I just can't. And when you're trying to be somebody that you're not, I think that there's a really great exercise that you can do within yourself and just stop and breathe and understand that it's kind of like holding your breath and you can't hold your breath anymore. And there's only so long that you can hold your breath, and so it's really hard, it's really embarrassing. It was for myself, it was very, like I said, it was very expensive and it was very painful. And there was a lot of people that were hurt and still are missing me being involved in that career. And yet I just couldn't do it anymore. And it was, I think, to give yourself some grace and understand that, at least this is what I did for me. I didn't know either. It's not like I was trying to hide from people. It's not like I was trying to lie to people. It was just I didn't know. And I
Right?
think just as life goes on and as we experience life, we just get closer and closer to who we are. And I think that that's okay to be able to pivot and just take your pride out of the situation because that's what I had to do, and say, you know what, I'm going to be humble in this and say, I didn't know that. I didn't know that I didn't want to do this, and now I need to make a change. And I think that that's okay. I think most people will be maybe upset initially, and to Megan's point, you just get to decide if those people are worth listening to or not.
Mhm. Yes. And Beth, you said a couple of times it was really expensive for you to make that pivot. And I'm guessing you mean financially expensive, is that correct?
Yes, that's a really great question. I'm just taking for granted that you can read my mind. Yes, yeah, it was financially very expensive, and I mean, I would be happy to go into it, but I don't think that it's worth it. But it was definitely financially expensive to stop something that was bringing in revenue, something that was that
Yes.
was able to be built upon, and to stop and pivot and stop my income and start something else and not
Yeah.
have an income in the meantime. It was
Yes.
very, very hard, and it was financially very expensive.
Yeah. And what I was thinking of when you were making that statement that like it was so expensive to pivot and assuming that you meant financially, and my brain was like, and it was so emotionally and physically expensive, or would have been, for you not to pivot. And that might have even led to it being financially expensive for you not to pivot. If it got to the point that the stress was burning you out, causing physical problems for you, or maybe leaving you to the point that like you had no choice to quit what you were doing and pivot rather than where you were, where you made that choice, and end up at a point where you don't have the energy, the time, the bandwidth to make the pivot that you actually need to make.
It's very taxing to not be authentic, and that is way, way more important than the money, in my opinion. Again, this is very individualized for each situation, but I would welcome, when you have a dream and you're not going for it, I would welcome bringing in some creativity into the situation. I myself, with some clients, we've had a situation like this, and we've just had to get creative together. Paint me a picture, and bringing in somebody like myself or your therapist or whomever who doesn't have any emotional attachment to what you're going through. Um, I think is really helpful to be able to bounce some ideas off of them and be able to get some creative ideas. Because I think sometimes when you're in a situation like this where you've got voices that are coming at you, or you're building up different scenarios in your head, if you're dealing with anxiety disorders or depression, that's going to be really hard. I think Megan would be more of the person to speak on this, but it would be really hard to be able to filter all of that out and not have some sort of a panic attack or some sort of issue. And so there's a lot of creativity that can be had to get the best of both worlds in as well as you can. There's never going to be a perfect scenario. Nothing will ever be perfect. But there are some things that you can slowly pivot into a different role, or you can slowly make a change. And I think one of the best things is being able to recognize for yourself where you're at, and then be honest with the other people that are involved and say, I don't know. I don't have all the answers either, but I can't keep holding my breath, and I have to be who I am, and I have to stand in my truth. And again, financially speaking, there are a lot of creativity, tools that we could get into, and it would just depend on each situation on
Mhm.
how best to make that happen. But I think being able to just identify who you are is the first step, and then being able to be brave enough to share that with other people.
Absolutely. And being brave enough to be honest with yourself about what that is, right? And, I come back to this so often. There's like the practical reality, which often involves the financial piece of it, right? And the emotional reality. And when we are considering even going for a dream, both of those pieces are important. Like, how do we make a plan so that we are financially, realistically, practically going to be okay enough? Like, we're not going to end up homeless or something while we're making this pivot, and emotionally steadying ourselves to be able to make this pivot so that we can trust ourselves enough to know that, like, we are going to make this happen. We are worthy of going for this dream and having this life that we want to have.
I think as women, we can probably speak to this specifically better than maybe some people, but I've had this with even colleagues and girlfriends of mine throughout the years, where they have had something, and this is very specific for a dream. They have had something in their career where they have a lot of different options, and they have a lot of opportunities, they have a lot of growth, and then this point hits where they go, I want to sacrifice that so I can become a mom. And there's a lot of stuff that comes up for people. And I think it's really, really hard for women specifically to make that adjustment and to make that change. Because from a financial standpoint, we can argue how expensive children are. We can argue, what your sacrifice is. There are all kinds of studies and all kinds of charts about how terrible it is for a woman to sacrifice herself to become a mom, financially speaking. And yet that just goes back into, it is not about the numbers. It is about you and your values and what it is that you're trying to accomplish in this life. And money is just a tool. And so it is really hard, I understand, to be able to stand in your truth and say, I'm going to make this pivot and make this change. But it's not always about the money. And if you value money, then fine, make that decision based off of what it is that you value based on the money. But if you value being a mom or making a change, then I think that's a really great thing to be able to be honest about.
Absolutely. And I just want to point out, being a mom doesn't mean you have to stop working.
I would say, to listeners, and I'm being vague, don't be so dramatic. Like, I understand that it's hard, but it might not be as dire as you think it's going to be.
Yeah, and I think it's really hard for us to believe that we can have it all. I believed for a very long time that it was just not possible, that there's always something that has to be sacrificed. And I'm not convinced anymore that that's true, that it's impossible and that there's always something that has to be sacrificed. Can we always be giving 100% to every area of our life? No. But I personally am a better mom when I get to work because I am doing work that I love, right? I get to have deep conversations with people. I'm helpful. And it just like, it fills my soul because the people I'm working with are people who, like, in other circumstances, I would probably be friends with. So you can have all of these things in your life, but we have to slow down enough to really get honest with ourselves about what we need and what we want to have that life. I think I would add that if you don't feel like you know what your dream is that you're going for, but you know that you're not satisfied now, like, that's okay. You don't have to know exactly yet what it is you're going for. And you don't have to make any changes right now. Like, you can give yourself the space and time to consider and to learn from doing the wrong thing, or at least the thing that you come to find out isn't your thing. And that is totally okay. That is how I have learned most things in life, is by realizing, oh, that's actually not what I want. And it's okay to be in that space of dissatisfaction, because it's simply teaching you that there is something more for you. There is something different for you that's just not aligned right now. And you're on that journey of figuring out what that is.
To wrap up this episode, I will say, I think in conclusion, if you have a dream and you're not going for it, recognize that that's okay. That is okay. let's figure out what we can do to go forward, but just recognize that's okay, and that's totally normal. In this next episode, we're going to be talking about how I feel like I know my numbers, I get financial help, I still have some issues. And for that one, we're going to be talking about I undervalue myself, my time, my knowledge, and my skills. See you there.